I think it's important that some spaces like this just be left alone or made to be even more kind of private and quiet. They don't try and activate the entire space. When we move around the other side, I think we'll see where that's much more important. And it's just simply going to be impossible to activate all of this in one big hit. So where's the library?
Just on the other side.
Have we got anybody from the library here?
Yeah, these ones.
All right, great. One of the things that I always say about it's fantastic that the library is on this public space. There are fantastic opportunities to bring your library out into the public domain. You know, most libraries have a huge supply or a supply of books that are now no longer in circulation. I just think it'd be a fantastic idea to have simple Ziploc clear plastic bags that they go in, that there are cushions scattered around outside of the library with those books left on it with a little note saying, enjoy, if you enjoy, bring another book back. You know? So it just creates an informal space. It's not using books that it matters that whether they disappear or not, but it creates a whole feeling and people go, books, library. So it's a really natural way to extend it out. So it's just one idea. All right, let's go. I said in the workshop, I'm a great believer that the micro matters, and I talked about how simply nailing a seat to the ground sends a message to people that they're untrustworthy. I think you can anybody see what caught my eye that sends a very, very negative message to people in this space? Bolted down seats. Look, just look over this direction here.
Oh, the gates on the toilet.
And the padlocks. I mean, even a padlock, instantly, you may not register the fact that there's a padlock. I mean, the design of the gates is absolutely Fort Knox. Just simply making that welcoming in some way would make a difference. That's what I mean by the really small stuff is what I often say to cities, that 99% of what they do is absolutely fantastic, but the 1% that they do that is bad absolutely destroys that 99%. Now overall, I mean, this is just an absolutely magical space, but something as simple as those gates and that padlock is what drags, one of the things that drags the whole space down.
A roll of red carpet might sort that
out. A roll of red carpet and just some pots either side of it, and you've got this whole feeling of a grand entry. Why not?
I love the red carpet.
All right, let's move on.
Simply just paint
Do you remember the ones Rachel in New York? They had the toilet she had fresh flowers. Public toilet with fresh flowers.
Yeah,
every day.
Mary.
Yeah. That's them.
You got a new car?
Yeah, so like so.
Now we just come over here for a minute. Now I'm kind of guessing, but what are the functions of these bollards here? Can anybody tell me? Oh, for leaning on.
It's to distinguish the church land from the public land.
That would be my guess. My guess is I bet this is the boundary of somebody's, it's demarcating territory. It's saying this is ours, this is yours. Now what I said earlier was that blurred boundaries is what creates interest. Okay? And so something as simple as this, again, just breaks the space up. This is the worst of both worlds, if you understand what I mean. They're not very nice, and they're really sending a bad message. So, again, give an artist $1,000 and tell them to make them into a work of art. All right. what I want you to do in this spot is to all breathe in deeply. One of the keys to great public spaces is that they are sensual. The thing that makes home home is how your senses are stimulated in that space. So the smells, the sounds of music, all of those things are absolutely vitally important to making you feel at home. So and I'm not going to get into the argument about whether having commercial activities in this space is good or not. The one good aspect of it is, even if I don't buy the coffee, that smell is a major asset to this place. You with me? The same would be true if you had a flower stand here. So if you think about what is it that can stimulate the senses, to me that's one of the key elements that you have to get into a space like this. Last time I've here, and I'll bang on about it again. Again, I think these bollards just break the space up into two neater spaces and say, that's car space, separate all these spaces out. Somehow this space has to be linked across almost seamlessly, so it's the cars transgressing through the living room, not the other way around. One of the principles that Hans Mondeman was very strong about in the way that you knit space together is that you must always make your land uses jump the road. So what he meant by that is that cars should always drive through something, not past something. So the cars should be driving through the King Square, not past the King Square. Do you understand the difference? Now, to psychologically do that, what you do is you put the same design elements on both sides of the space.
I was going to ask, and maybe somebody from the city might be able to share, is what about extending the trees as part of that continuation as well? Because it is a really hot space.
Okay, you're starting to get into what your group is going to be brainstorming.
Okay.
And that is an absolutely valid way of doing it. Would be, there could be a whole lot of trees on either side here. You could actually be driving through an avenue of trees. That would maybe one way of knitting both sides together. All right? What else will we look at? Go around this way? Yeah, all right. Now, I don't know, one of the things I want all of you to get is to all become passionate observers of the way public space works. Because I'm not going to be here every day to tell you the way it works. Now, there was a moment that just happened then, which instantly, as a placemaker, I go, this is what it's all about. They're two kids just touching the chessets. They're too young to play. You with me? And yet that's a linger node, and the parents standing there, come on, come on, come on. Well, we just stop there for a moment. As a non-arborist, I don't know the answer to it, but it's an interesting question as to why the big trees are kind of off limit to everybody psychologically. There's something very tactile about being very close to a tree, being able to touch it, etc. These walls play a secondary function, obviously, for people to sit on. But I do think it's an interesting question to ask as to why we're protecting those trees from human interaction.
Give me the answer.
You can give me the answer, Andrew.
a lot of activity around the base of the trees was compacting the ground, which was making it very difficult for the trees to get the right amount of water and oxygen or whatever. And so the walls and the like were actually put in as a way of being able to loosen around the trees. So they actually have let the trees survive like for another 20 years. It certainly wasn't about stopping people getting to the trees. But
people still climb the trees a lot, actually. The kids still climb a lot, and teenagers. Yeah, it's good.
Well, but as has been suggested, that could be an absolutely fun thing to do, would be to put a boardwalk across to them. You know, again, every kid would want to walk across the boardwalk. Fantastic idea. How much do you think this square represents or portrays the history and the setting of Fremantle?
It doesn't connect back to the water history.
What I'm about to say is I don't get any feeling of connection with the water history in this space, and I just wonder whether one of the strong elements of the identity of Fremantle is all about the port and sailing and stuff like that. I don't see a piece of rope anywhere in here. I mean, what I'm saying, they only need to be small clues, but from a tourist perspective, I could be in any city, not any city, but you know what I'm saying, that I don't get that strong feeling that this is connected in some way to that.
That's it. That's the photo. Even the Herald.
Oh, he's in trouble.
I think one of the issues in this space, certainly from a daytime perspective, is the incredible difference between this building and this building, which to me makes the space feel very disjointed. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? That I think this is a fantastic feature on this building, this green walkway here. And you look over at this and look at the contrast. I mean, this just looks like, can I be rude? It does look like the arse end of something. One of the principles to make a space more intimate is how you make it feel like a room. And what I guess I'm saying is this feels like a corridor, not like a room. Okay? And there's no sense of connection between the walls. And whether it's flags, lights, whether it's wires going across with vines growing on them, can you start to see what I'm saying? You put a ceiling on this space and suddenly the whole space becomes transformed.
Linking this side.
It's the same place, so it perpetuates that sense.
Oh, across the street. Hang on. Where are we? No, across here. That's here. That's
Talk about it.
out there at the moment in the benches around it. However many times a week it's picked up in the summer, obviously.
One of the other ones was
Talk up just tree there, and then you could open it up so the church people have their parking when they need it. But
We closed that road for events before, and unfortunately what people do is mount the curb and drive through here to still get to the church.
Church, angle it to look at the playground.
so it could be like
So we can have a video where people
We need to put things to look at.
we also
they're
need
there. They're there.
So this day, which is the
Parkour, skating, play every stuff. I think something with water, like on the
Okay, so I can have your attention, please. Alright, because the idea here is to get the absolute best plan possible. So steal other people's ideas, make them better, etc. Alright? Can I give you one other piece of advice? I think the process is always or often the key to this. In other words, you can have a great idea, but what is the process for implementing it? And how easy is it to implement?
running free bike frames that were available to help create a zone, to do some bike-inspired artwork for new people in the space, links with Fremantle's kind of marketing branding as Sustainable City, Sustainable Council, with furniture and some structure in that. It'll be quite nice and some was quite cool there. We also like the playground trail, and I quite like the idea of a basketball ring on the back of the church. Based on like the lingo moves that
so we kind of went through how we would implement it and try to work out costs as well to make sure it would be within assets.
So we focused our ideas into a general theme, which is bike disco. So this was inspired, I guess, by a lot of the bike parks. I think it was 100 bike frames. Is the living wall, which is already being conceptualised through Curtin University, and would utilise some of the bike pieces and bike parts that are available in our kitty. And we'd have beautiful vines, scented vines, and edible passion fruit vines, jasmine vines.
And bring the library into the square by opening up the doors that are children's library section, and creating a green wall on the green wall.
Because we're trying to capture both the green environment that already exists there, with the grass and the trees and everything, but also try and capture some of the green time of the Indigenous aspect. So
That answers the core question I have.
it's basically where, I mean, that is pretty much where the wild already basically hang out. And in some ways it's under a tree. We thought about places for it, like, you know, our Whitefellow kind of culture, let's shove it right in the middle of the big square, you know,
I think that if half of this happens, it's going to make a huge difference in the space. Can I also say that from my previous visits here, that already, I looked out today during the workshop, and I was absolutely tickled pink with what I saw happening out there. I think that just the little things like leaving the chess pieces out, putting the table tennis bats out, having the coffee cart out there is already starting to make a huge difference. The other thing I was very encouraged with how many kids there were actually running around in the square, playing, etc. So I think you see this as a journey, that this is the next step in a journey that you've already begun. We're not reinventing things here, we're just going, we've started a journey, it started sometime previously. But I think the things like getting rid of those bollards, getting a whole lot of movable plants in, and all the things that you've got here are just going to just keep building on that. And congratulations also, you've done incredibly well at not turning this into a bitch and moan session, which often happens. This has been an incredibly positive day, and I want to thank you for that, and go for it, team.